What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ravi Wadden, and in today's video, I want to talk about the lease deal on a Tesla Model 3 Performance. So I just did the long-range rear-wheel drive a couple of days ago, and a lot of you asked me to do an analysis video on the Tesla Model 3 Performance. So if you're in the market for a Tesla Model 3 Performance and you're really, considering whether you should buy it or whether you should lease it, I think you'll get a lot of value from this video. So what we'll do is we'll head over to the Tesla website, and we'll kind of study this lease deal in detail, and I'll give you lots of helpful tips and tricks along the way. Then in the second part of this video, what we'll do is we'll run my 1.25% rule of leasing, which is pretty much, it's a value analysis on this lease. And we'll talk about why, this Tesla Model 3 Performance lease deal isn't really a good deal, but it's not really a bad deal. It just depends on how long you want to keep the car and what the depreciation is going to be in the long run. And then in the third part of this video, what we'll do is we'll compare the monthly lease payments to the monthly finance payments. And then we'll end this video with me kind of sharing my thoughts on whether you should lease this vehicle or rather when it makes sense to lease this vehicle and in what situations or circumstances it makes sense to finance this vehicle. So if you guys are interested in this, it'd be awesome to have you follow along the video. But with that, let's go ahead and jump into the computer behind me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are on Tesla's website. So we'll click on Tesla Model 3. We'll click on Order Now. And then here on the right-hand side, we will click on Performance All-Wheel Drive. And then what I like to do is unclick this box where it says Include Estimated Gas Savings, because I really want a transparent view of what the payment's going to look like. I don't need the gas savings factored in, at least not right now. And as you can see here, you can lease the Performance All-Wheel Drive. Well, did it change anything? Yeah, you can lease the Performance All-Wheel Drive for $599 a month, and that's with $2,999 down. It's a 36-month lease that requires, that allows for 10,000 miles a year, as you can see here. Now, one thing I do want to just clarify is that, if you change the color on this Tesla, it's going to increase the price. As you can see here, the solid black, blue, and white add about $1,000. The red adds $2,000, and the Quicksilver adds $2,000 as well. And the cool thing with the Performance is you get the warp wheels, and that's kind of the standard wheel. And if you want to do the white interior, you're going to add, the white interior is actually included with the Performance. I didn't know that. The black interior is included as well. And then as you can see here, full self-driving is approximately $8,000. But what we're going to do is just go with the base paint color. We're not going to really change anything to increase the price. And one thing that I really like about the Tesla calculator now is that when you click on Edit Terms and Savings, it really gives you a much better overall view of the lease. Before, all consumers saw was just this $2,999, that's the down payment. And a lot of people had this misconception that, hey, I can lease this car with just $2,999 down. But the reality is that, the taxes, excuse me, that you have to pay on rebates, registration fees, etc., are not included in this $2,999. So if you click this box where it says Include Estimated Taxes and Fees, you'll see that the monthly payment has adjusted to $671 a month, and sales tax is included in this $671 a month. And you'll see that the total due at signing now increases to $6,500. Now, let me see if I can actually zoom in here. That might be a little too much of a zoom in, but as you can see here, it's gone up to $6,500. Now, if I click on Show Details, I'm going to have to actually back out of this. You'll see that you have a destination fee of $1,390, an order fee of $250, an acquisition fee of $695, and an acquisition fee really is standard. I mean, a lot of people think that you can negotiate it out. You really can't. A lot of manufacturers will let you roll it into the lease payment. And Tesla typically won't let you do that. But anyways, acquisition fee is really standard. You have a disposition fee of $395, and that's something that you'll have to pay because there is no buyout option on this Tesla Model 3 Performance. You have to turn it in at the end of the lease, and that is something that you should consider. You have a registration amount of $250, RTA county fee of $693, upfront taxes of $1,192, and then you have your total estimated taxes and fees of $4,865. Now, if we actually go back, you'll see that it increases to $6,500 because that's with the $3,000 down payment factored in. And the monthly payment, as I mentioned, is $671 a month. Now, in terms of annual miles, Tesla makes it really, really easy. If you want a 12,000 mile a year lease, the payment dynamically adjusts to $702. If you want a 15,000 mile a year lease, the payment dynamically adjusts to $734. Now, if you know you drive 12 or 15,000 miles a year, I tell people all the time, just get that 12 or 15,000 mile a year lease up front. Otherwise, you're going to end up paying this 25-cent per mile penalty, and it's just cheaper to get the mileage up front. Your monthly payment is not going to jump as much as paying this 25 cents a mile. So if you know you drive over 12,000 or 10,000, just do it up front. But I'm going to default this back to 10,000 miles a year. And another thing I want to mention is a lot of people will, change this to $6,000. They'll change the down payment to $6,000 just because the monthly payment looks a bit more tempting, a bit more affordable. But I want to tell you guys that just because you're putting more money down, you're really not. There's no financial advantage of doing so. Like from a mathematical perspective, all you're doing is just prepaying your lease, and hypothetically, you want to put the least amount of money possible down, because if you were to buy this car or lease this car, and let's say in 2 weeks you get in an accident, the car is totaled, it could be really hard and really difficult or impossible to recover some or all of that down payment. So you really want to just leave it at the default, which is $2,999. And if Tesla allows you to roll this $3,000 into your lease, I would do it. I think that's a smart financial decision to do so. Now, in this part of the video, what I want to do is run my 1.25% rule of leasing on this Tesla Model 3 Performance. Now, with my 1.25% rule of leasing, anytime you get a number under 1.5% after you've done the calculation, that's a good lease deal in terms of value. If you get a number under 1.25%, that's a good deal, a great deal, in terms of value. And if you get a number under 1%, that's an amazing lease deal in terms of value. And as you'll see here, this Tesla Model 3 Performance is really on the cusp of good deal and not so much of a good deal because it comes in at slightly over 1.5%. But anyways, let's go ahead and run the calculation. So let's go ahead and bust out the handy dandy calculator. What we're going to do is take this $6,500 that's due at signing. I'm going to plug that in, and then we're going to subtract the monthly payment of $671 from that amount, since this $6,500 includes this first month's payment. Now, when I do that, I get $5,829. Now what I'm going to do is divide this by 36, since this is a 36-month lease, and I get $161. And now I'm going to add the monthly payment of $671 back in, and that gives me an effective monthly payment of $832. Now, typically what I do is I multiply that previous number by 1.1 to account for sales tax, but this Tesla calculation that you're looking at here includes sales tax. So this $832 a month, this monthly payment, is the effective monthly payment. And when I say effective, it's inclusive of all taxes, all fees, all registration fees. Like in a hypothetical situation, if you just had to put nothing down, zero down, your monthly payment would be $832 a month. And now what I'm going to do is divide this by this vehicle's MSRP, and the MSRP on this car is, I don't have it on the top of my head. It's $54,990. So let's divide this by 54,990. That gives us 0.0151. We'll multiply this by 100 to convert it into a percentage and move the decimal point over 2 spots. And as you can see here, you get 1.51%. Now, as I mentioned earlier, anytime you run this calculation and you get a number under 1.5, good lease deal. Under 1.25, great lease deal. Under 1%, amazing lease deal. And as you can see here, we're slightly over 1.5% at 1.51%. So is this a good lease deal? It's really on the cusp of a good lease deal. Is it a terrible lease deal? No. I've seen lease deals that are at 1.8, 1.9%, 2%, right? They really, really get up there. So at 1.51%, I personally still think this is a good lease deal. And for my personal situation, I would still lease this Tesla Model 3 Performance. And here's why I say that. Now, to understand why I would lease this car, let's take a look at the monthly finance payment on this car. You'll see that I used the selling price of this Tesla, which is $54,990. I used a 72-month loan term, an interest rate of 3.99%, because that's what's on the Tesla website right here, 3.99%. No cash incentives, no down payment, because there's no down payment on the lease. I did the state of Washington, a 10% tax rate. Title registration, other fees, I used $3,000 to cover title registration and other fees. I have this box checked, include all fees in the loan. And when I hit calculate, I get a monthly payment of $993 a month. And that's if I were to finance this particular car. And I don't know if you remember, but when we just did the lease payment, my effective monthly payment on the lease with all taxes, fees, registrations rolled in, and $0 down was $832 a month. So you're saving about $160 a month if you were to lease this particular car. Now, even if you did a 12,000 mile a year lease or a 15,000 mile a year lease, you'd still be well under this $993 a month. I think if you did 15,000 miles a year, your monthly payment would be at roughly $900 a month versus $993 a month if you finance it. But one of the major things that people don't factor in when they purchase a Tesla is depreciation. Now, as you can see here, if we look at this amortization schedule, you'll see that at the end of year one, our loan balance is still going to be $54,932. At the end of year two, we still have a loan balance of $43,987. At the end of year three, we have a loan balance of $33,639. And in my personal opinion, this car is not going to be worth more than $33,639 at the end of 3 years. And the reason I say that is because not only do Teslas have a bad resale value, but Tesla is on this mission to decrease the price of their cars. So as their battery technology gets better, the mileage increases, maybe the horsepower increases, and the manufacturing costs decrease, Tesla is putting downward pressure on their own cars. So the MSRP of $54,990, my guess would be this MSRP would be lower in 3 years' time, which puts more downward pressure on the resale value of this Tesla Model 3 Performance. Now, if you were going to keep this car for 4, 5, maybe 6, 7 years or longer, then I think, maybe buying it, it's not a bad deal. But if your plan is to just keep this car for 3 or 4 years, then I think leasing it makes a lot of financial sense. And one thing people don't consider is that when you lease it, you get the $7,500 tax credit regardless, right? So when you finance it here, you have to meet this criteria. So if you make over $300,000 as a married couple, or over $225,000 as a head of household, or if you make over $150,000 for all other filers, you won't get the $7,500 tax credit. But if you lease it, you get the $7,500 tax credit regardless. This eligibility criteria right here doesn't apply to you if you lease it. And that's one of the kind of loopholes when it comes to leasing EVs and plug-in hybrids. Now, if you do meet this eligibility criteria and you're looking to finance it, then I think, it's really a toss-up between financing and leasing this car. It really just depends on how long you want to keep it. Now, with electric vehicles, I think if you're watching this video, you know that technology is it's really, really progressing at a rapid rate, and these electric vehicles are like buying computers, right? In 3 years' time, who knows where we're going to be? Maybe the Model 3 Performance will have 600 miles of range, and maybe there'll be other competitors. And so I think with leasing it, it really kind of protects you from the downside risk of having to pay more for this car than you really need to. So as you can see, leasing a Tesla Model 3 Performance versus buying one isn't really a black and white answer. It really depends on your scenario. It depends on how long you're going to keep the car. It depends on whether or not you qualify for the $7,500 EV tax credit, and a couple other factors. But, I think leasing it is not a bad way to go, especially when you consider depreciation and when you consider the downward pricing pressure that Tesla is putting on their vehicles. But if you have any other questions about leasing or about Tesla leases, or if you want me to do another video like this on a different Tesla model, let me know in the comment section below. But thank you guys for watching. Financial knowledge is power. Please like and follow for more.